G'day all, welcome to another edition of Fly Fishing in Nature's Realm. Now in this episode we're going to learn how to tie a mudeye fly, and this mudeye fly is called the Gorgital Fly, and it was a fly that was developed and invented by Fred Dunford from Cooma in New South Wales. And Fred is an excellent fly tyer, and also a great fly fisherman as well. I never met Fred, but I did correspond with him with the written word and letters and so forth back 30 or so years ago, especially when he was fighting for Lake Yukonbean. We had problems with Lake Yukonbean back then, and Fred was behind a push to stop the what was happening then. I can't quite remember exactly what it was about, but it was very important, and we were successful. So that was great back then. So Fred developed the Gorgital Fly. Now the Gorgital Fly is a pattern that imitates a mudeye. Now, it imitates the mudeye when they're hatching and they come up to the surface and they sit right in the surface film, or the mudeyes are going up rocks, or they might be going up tree trunks and up tree branches and so forth, and even fishermen too, especially at night time. You can have mudeyes crawling up. You think you're actually some type of timber object, and they'll crawl up to the up along your waders and so forth. And Fred actually fished Lake Yukonbean, and I've done a lot of fishing up at Lake Yukonbean. It's a great place to fish and has excellent mudeye hatches. There's no worries about that. But we have great around Victoria, and this fly works just as well in a lot of our lakes around Victoria. So let's start tying this fly. Now, first of all, the materials that you'll need to tie this fly, I'll put them up in front of me right now, and as you can see, you can pause that on your computer, write down all the materials that you'll need, and you'll be in business. But as I was saying, like I always do, I tell what materials as we go along that we will need. Alright, first of all, what we'll need is a hook, a size 8 long shank would probably be my preference there. So 8 long shank, and we will need black 6/0 thread. If you want stronger, you could possibly go stronger because we're spinning deer hair here, but you'll find a lot of the 6/0 threads have got enough strength to spin deer hair, as long as you don't go overboard with tighten it down too tight. Right? So let's start tying this fly. Start at the point or 2-third mark, because that's going to be separation of the body and the head. Alright, so we'll just go at about that position there and work our way down to the bend of the hook. Cut away the excess. Alright, now first thing we need to do is to spin deer hair. Now the deer hair that I'll be using in this demonstration is natural deer hair. Now, because we're imitating the Cuda mudeye, you couldn't go wrong in using brown deer hair for the body. That would be a great idea. But natural works as well. It's got that colour, that dark coloration in it. So whatever you prefer is what you should use there. So what we do is get our scissors and we cut off a bunch of deer hair. Now, get that deer hair, put it on top of the hook shank where our thread is, and then 2 wraps, 1, 2, and then we tighten and let it spin around. Alright, let it spin around. And get it relatively tight, guys, because we don't want it to move as we're constructing the rest of the fly. So a bit of tightness there, and then come, weave your way through to where it's at, and now pack the deer hair. Alright, get it and pack it up tight against the back there. Alright, and then bring your thread to that point there. Now we'll grab another bunch of deer hair. Again at that point there, 2 wraps around, 1, 2, and tighten and spin. Tighten and spin. And then pack it in tight. Now another bunch of deer here. Two wraps, 1, 2, and now tighten and spin. Pack it again. And we're basically probably just a tiny little bit away from where we, and so what we'll do now is tie a small bunch, just a small bit, just to cover that last bit there. Again, 2 wraps, tighten, spin. Those beginners here that don't realise, deer hair is a great material because it's hollow and we can spin it and we can actually trim it to the shape, and it's fantastic what you can do with their hair. We can make mouse flies, we can make frog flies, we can make any type of fly where there's any shape needed. We just, after you'll see, we're going to cut this to the shape of a mudeye body. And but there's lots of other things you can do with deer hair. That's for the raw beginners, alright, totally beginners, because I think every fly fisherman knows how good deer hair is and what it can do for us. Alright, so we just pack this last bit in. Again, work our way up to that point there. Pack it in. There we are. Alright, so what we do now is we need to trim that to the shape of a mudeye. Alright, so the best thing to do there is to tie off. Alright, so let's do a whip finish at this point here. And then we'll snip off the thread, and what we need to do is to get the deer hair, grab the hook bend, and then the bottom needs to be flat. So that's the first thing we do, is we trim the bottom section. And like I say, we want to trim it as flat as we possibly can, because if we don't do that, we're not going to have a gape in our hook. And if a trout takes it, it's not going to hook up, guys. So we need to make that gate, well, nothing in between, the point of the hook to the shank needs to be very, very, just a small amount of deer hair of the body there. So we trim that first. Then we trim the sides, and then we trim the top. Now with the power of editing, we'll come back when I've finished trimming this deer hair into the shape of a mudeye. Back in a second. Okay, back again. Now we have trimmed the deer hair, the spun deer hair, to the shape of a mudeye body, paying particular attention to making sure that the bottom is very flat to the hook shank. Alright, so we'll continue on, and first of all we re-tie our thread back onto the hook shank. Like so. Trim that off, and we're ready to continue. Now the next material we'll need is mountain duck feathers. Now here we have a section of mountain duck feathers here. If you can get a duck and skin it and get all the fat off as you can, boys. Very important that we do that, because and another tip too is that these feathers have got oil on it, and well, this occurs with me. It gets on my fingers, I rub my eyes blow up like you wouldn't believe. So I don't know whether that'll happen to you, but it does with me. So avoid touching your eyes with this oil that is on these feathers, and wash your hands after you've finished. Very important. So we select 3 of these mountain duck feathers, and you're looking around about the medium-sized feathers on a cape of a duck, or you might get them loose. I don't know which way you would get them, but if you can get them on the cape, so much the better, because then we can see the size of the feathers. On the top, large feathers, 3/4 size, half, very small, as we go down the cape. Alright, now we take 3 feathers and line them on top of each other, and as you can see the feathers curving down that way. So we put it on top and have the feather come over the back of the fly by just a touch, going past the back there. And grab the feather on the sides, and then bring your thread and wrap that and tie that in. Do it loose at first, so that if you haven't got it straight, let's have a look. We've got that nice and straight. Yeah, basically good. Alright, so I'm happy with that. Now tie it down tight. Cut the excess off. And we're ready for the next step. Now the next step is to tie in some deer hair for the legs. Alright. Now a good way to maybe use, this could be an idea to use moose hair, which is a lot thicker and stronger, or any other type. You could use any other material if you like, but the original calls just for deer hair. Very small bunch of deer hair tied in at the sides. So we get about that much there, and then tie them in the sides, judging the length to what you feel is correct, and then tie that in, and then grab another bunch probably a bit too much. Same length. and trim the excess away. Like so. And then we can tie that down to the very eye of the hook. Like so. Alright. Now we need to tie in it's like if you're tying in a wing case, we're just going to go over the deer hair head. So we've got to tie it in next. So we take 2 mountain duck feathers. Grab that one there. Clear away all the base rubbish feather there. Get another one. Put them on top of each other. Now this time, what we do is we tie them in differently. Now we grab the stalk there and the feathers curving upwards, alright, and we tie it that the stems are in that direction. Okay, and then we take a turn around, 1, 2 if you like, loose, not too tight. Then we pull them up. To about that position there. And now we tie it down tight. And tie down those fibres sticking out the end there. And then we can trim them around where they're going over the eye of the hook there. Just like that. Alright, now we have to create the head of the mudeye. Now the way we do this is we use deer hair, but we just use a smaller amount, and when we tie them on, we stack them on so we don't spin it. Right? So we put the deer hair down, tighten down and flare out, then one to the side, to the other side and the bottom. So we get a very small amount for each of those there. So we take a section there, we put this underneath. And it's a good idea to cut the tips away from there so that we know that we're not cutting away the legs when we do tidy it up. Okay, now we've trimmed the deer hair into the mudeye head, and now what we've got to do is we're going to bring those 2 mountain duck feathers over the head. So we grab the wing like so, or the feathers over, bring them in on top, bring out fly tying thread and tie them in, make sure they're nice and straight and in line. Now what we do is we cut away the excess. Alright, and we whip finish. Cut away the thread, and then we just tied it up a bit, so any of the fibres around the eye of the hook we can push them like so there. Trim the legs up. Okay, to take the fly out of the hook, out of the vice I should say. And then once we've done that, put it back into the vise, and there we have the Fred Dunford Gorgital Fly tied to the original pattern. And I always stick with the original because, you know, Fred obviously had reasons for deer hair, because what a lot of people do with this pattern is that they, instead of using the deer hair body, they might use, say, a foam body, or, you know, some material that's got a floatability to it. And while that possibly would work, it might not do what its job is intended, because the way I see with this pattern to the original tying, you've got the deer hair which floats it, but it also absorbs water and gets in between all the deer hair, still floats, but it absorbs a bit of the water. And the duck feathers, they'll absorb the water as well. So what you've got is a pattern that's half in the water and half out, right in the meniscus, all right, of the water surface. And that's what the mudeyes do, the naturals, and that's what that imitates. So tie it to the original, that's my feeling. But if you want to tie a fly that's a lot quicker and experiment with it, maybe it just catches as many trout as what the deer head does. All right, it's up to you guys. All right, but let me tell you, it's a great pattern. Let's have a look at it. As you can see, we've got the shape of mudeye. and they look up from underneath, and looking up, there's a silhouette of a Cuda mudeye, and even a spider mudeye too. It's got the coloration of a Cuda mudeye, but it's got the shape of a spider mudeye. And if you wanted it to be exactly like a Cuda, you could probably tie in those feathers to a slender shape, which is possible. And could you dye this an olive green to imitate a spider mudeye? I don't think it would. I've never tried it. You guys might want to try it, but I don't think it's too dark, the mountain duck feather there, to absorb any olive green dye. I don't think we'd have much success with that. But you could use an olive green body deer hair. There's no worries with that. Brown's a good one too. So again, you can chop and change different colours to your heart's desire. So that's a great pattern to imitate hatching mudeyes. And I'll tell you a story. When I was up at Lake Yukonbean, and I was fishing with friends Andy Scott, I think Tony and Ian Scott, a few other people, and we were in what bay was it? I can't remember now, but it was one of the I think it was no, I can't remember, but anyway, fishing one of the bays of Yukonbean, and we were fishing right on dark, and as soon as the sun dipped behind the hills, they were on. The mudeyes were coming up, and the trout were taking them left, right and centre, and no one could catch a trout except myself using this pattern, and none of them had that pattern on. Now, it's not saying that fly is the be all and end all, it's not, guys, but on this night it worked a treat. And then I handed them each one of these flies, and they started catching fish. So yeah, it was a great night that, until we ran out of flies. So yeah, alright then guys, so again, if you've got any questions, put them down below in the comment sections there, and if you've got any flies that you might want to know how to tie, give me a call, or put down a comment, and I'm only too happy to help you. Alright guys, see you in the next episode of Fly Fishing in Nature's Realm. Bye for now.